Women are gatekeepers too in this industry. I have to be honest, not everyone, but there are a lot of women who are gatekeepers and a lot of men in this industry who are gatekeepers too.
There was one studio that specifically told me that they just didn't feel very comfortable about hiring a male esthetician.
When you think about estheticians, when you think about medical spas, you feel female-oriented. This industry doesn't really open the doors for us.
I was the only male student in my class.
I was one of the only guys here, Well, my skin is fine. Why do I need you? Mm-hmm. And I go, it's like going to the gym. Your skin is a muscle. You want to strengthen that muscle.
You're not going to see results right away. You're going to come see me. I'm your personal trainer. But when you're not seeing me, you also have to do your home care.
3 C's. I always say commitment, consistency, and compliance. Mm-hmm. I'm here today with Jeff Mendoza, who is another male esthetician and a fellow brethren, I call him, in this industry. So fortunate enough today to sit with you and get a treatment. And I just want to get to know Jeff because, we're men in this industry. It's so far and few between. And it's always nice when we can get together and have a little bit of a conversation on our experiences here. So just, can you quickly tell us a little bit about how you became a male esthetician?
It was not planned, first of all. I just kind of fell into the industry. My mom got me a facial package, and I was having some skin issues at the time, and then I ended up seeing results, and that's I was at a point in my life where I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and that's how I found out about an esthetician. Went to a school, and then from there, I just fell in love with the industry. I was the only male student also in my class, which I think most male estheticians
I was. There was one other guy, but he left really early. He didn't stay the course.
You didn't like it?
But I was one of the only guys here,
So I think that was the start of the journey. It was very specific to a lot of what males went through, male estheticians in the industry went through. I had a hard time. For me, at least, I had a hard time trying to find jobs for during the first few months. Nobody wanted to hire me.
Why do you think that was? Did you get a reason why?
So part of it is because I was fresh out of school, and I think a lot of the spas at the time, I don't know if they still do it, but a lot of spas at the time, they only want to hire someone with experience. To me, I was like, how am I going to get experience if I don't get hired? It was probably, it was because I was male. Actually, there was one studio that specifically told me that they just didn't feel very comfortable about hiring a male esthetician because they didn't think that their female clients would feel comfortable having a male esthetician. So,
oh wow,
I just couldn't believe that actually was even said to me. First of all, that was very bold for that person, for that spa to tell me that I can't work there because I'm male. Mm-hmm.
And it speaks to, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to have these conversations to that point. Mm-hmm. This is an industry that the women are more dominant, right? And I see, not only as a male, but also as a Black male, this industry doesn't really open the doors for us. They see, when you think about estheticians, when you think about medical spas, you feel female-oriented. If the males are there, they are mostly on the sales side. They're never face front. You see few stars that emerge, but they're not as prominent as the women. But it's the funny thing, because in makeup, men are pretty revered. I thought it would just been an easy crossover, and it wasn't. So you went through that situation. How did that make you feel? And then how did you get to this point from here?
So a very long road. So I was really discouraged after having experienced that and coming from, when I was in school. And so I had all of this idea of what, working in this industry was going to be. I ended up opening up my own because no one wanted to hire me. That was also a mistake because when I first opened my business, I didn't really have any business experiences, so I didn't know how to run a business. Mm. So eventually ended up closing my business down after about 1.5 years. And I went back to working at regular jobs. And from there, I found myself in various different industries. And then I ended up in the fitness industry, where I quickly moved up to become a manager of a fitness studio. From that point on, I learned a lot of how to run a business, how to grow clientele, customer service.
By watching.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same with me. I learned from the makeup floor. Like I've been doing makeup since I was 17 years old, and I was a counter manager, a resident artist, which is an artist who is in store, and then I was a traveling artist.
Yeah.
And just being in those practices, you learn, and then you
yeah.
And you reopen.
So, and it's just all those experiences that it might not be, related to the industry, but I was able to learn the skills that I needed to learn.
Yeah.
Eventually 2020 happened. I was lucky enough that I was able to keep my job. A lot of the people in other studios were laid off, people who had the same position as me. The only reason they kept me on was because I had a graphic design background. So I was able to help marketing with that.
Mm-hmm.
So I went through this whole kind of realization that I just don't have control over my life. Like, they could have just let me go. If I didn't have this one specific skill, I would have just been let go also. I have a professional photography background. I have a graphic design background. And then I also learned a lot of social media working for the fitness studio. So I was in charge of that. That really helped me get to where I am when it comes to social media. So
the blueprint, right?
Yeah, so the visual, the social media, and and then just learning the ropes, like the insights and all that kind of stuff. I ended up talking to my boss, who, my trajectory for the company was I was actually going to go to corporate and then work with the marketing team.
Mm.
Because of that whole realization, I became part of that, seal ratio of the Great Resignation. So I ended up telling my boss, I'm like, this is probably, I've decided to reopen my business, and this is not going to be where, this is not where I see myself anymore. My boss actually respected, and she actually helped me get to where I am. Also.
Wait, people, that's just taking that lead for any entrepreneur is just, it's such a self-gratifying moment, and it's a defining moment for you making a choice to step into your life. So Skin Factory opened up what year?
June of 2020, right in the middle of COVID.
Right.
Best time to open a business.
Right, because I opened up January 2020.
Right before it happened.
Right before it happened. I mean, I was scared as heck. I just left a big salon just doing eyebrows, and I knew that in that salon, I wanted to focus on men. And then when he closed in 2019, I had to make a choice. And then it was like, okay, I have to do this. I have a lot of clients. I want to make sure I take care of them. And then January we opened. March we went into pandemic.
Yep.
But there was an ease over me for some reason. And I knew that I was going to be okay. And it gave me an opportunity to really start to hone down what it is that I wanted my business to look like. And I knew 2 years before that, when I worked at the salon, that I wanted to focus on men. And I had started with brows in that salon. And when I got into COVID, I said, okay, this is my incubation period. And that's what I used it for. Men were under a renaissance. And under the pandemic, this whole thing of toxic masculinity came up. This whole thing of racism came up.
Yeah.
It was just so much going on. And I said, we are in a change period. Mm-hmm. And men are part of that change because we are looking at how we show up in the world. And so I just knew that my hands could help. I don't know if you realize this, that estheticians became essential because of COVID.
Yeah.
You opened up Skin Better. You've come here. You started your own business. A man in the business. They told you that you weren't the face of a business. You're pretty popular. He's pretty popular, dude. Motherfucker is popular. Excuse my French, but he's dope. First of all, how many male clients do you see?
So a lot more than, I would say, an average esthetician. So not as, still not a lot.
Okay.
I would say between 30 to 40% of my clients.
Do you feel comfortable working with a lot of different types of men?
Yes, I do.
Mm-hmm.
And, I always find it, if it's something that is challenging for me, it actually makes me more, it just energizes me a lot more. So I love to see all different types of men. Yeah.
I love that you said that, and I'm going to just be a little bit more transparent. I work with white men, black men, Hispanic men, Latino, fill the gamut. I have men from 16 to 65, men who are affluent, men who are working class. I'm sure that your clientele is pretty diverse as well. Yeah. I have no problems working with each man because as a makeup artist, I've had to learn to work on different types of skin.
Right.
I don't know. I've talked to some of my other counterparts. I don't know if they're some of the men that I know who do this work and some of the women that I know who do this work have a diversified clientele of men. So you're comfortable working with them, but how are you getting them comfortable to come into the space if they're new?
If they're new, it's really all about communication and just giving them what to expect. When you get to the part where you have to do extractions on someone, that's something that maybe most of them have never felt before.
Freak out.
So you always want to give that expectation during your consultation and letting them know, we are going to be doing some extractions. I know that you've never had that. And then I explain to them the process and I tell them, you might feel a little pressure around these areas, just to give you a heads up. But if you do feel uncomfortable, you're welcome to let me know. So I give them that. I give them that freedom, and I give them that.
And what's the responses?
If anything is uncomfortable, you let me know, and feel free to always ask questions. If something is confusing to you, be open. So, and I think that really helps.
Okay.
With setting the mood for the client.
What are some of your challenges with some of your male clients? What you said?
Challenges. I think for me,
if there's none, that's fine.
No, I would say
okay.
Most men don't have a consistent skincare routine, so I think the challenge is getting them to be consistent.
Let me tell you, man. Oh my God. I use my IG as best as I possibly can to speak to that part, to speak to the part of obviously seeing the fact that it's a challenge for them, but getting them to understand why coming and getting a facial, especially because the most I get is, well, my skin is fine. Why do I need you? And I go, it's like going to the gym. Your skin is a muscle. You want to strengthen that muscle. My latest thing now, just as doing this work, it's really about, I really lean into that part of the fortifying of the muscle of the largest organ of your body. Yeah. And it's been a little helpful, but yeah, I'm still kind of climbing up the ladder trying to get more guys to be more consistent. It's
definitely challenging, to get them to be consistent. But what I tend to, how I sort of make that easier for them is that, you want to start them off with a very basic routine. And then make sure, you let them know, once they're consistent enough, and that's when we can start adding more, maybe a serum here and there. And I love what you said about the skin, kind of treating it like you go to the gym. Because I like that analogy, and I use that analogy to a lot of my male clients, where I tell them, skincare is like fitness, because you're not going to see results right away. You're going to come see me. I'm your personal trainer. But when you're not seeing me, you also have to do your home care, where you have to eat correctly. You have to, and in the skincare, you have to do the home care that I tell you to do. And then over time, that's when you start seeing results. Right. 3 C's. I always say commitment, consistency, and compliance. Right? If you're going to invest and you really want to see what the benefits of what we do here in this room, I'm going to need these things from you. It's a relationship being built. I notice with male clients, I'm a straight shooter with them. And I think it's easier for them to absorb what I'm saying because it is another man in this space with them. This is the one space that's very intimate. We are very hands-on in a way that's different than barbers. And also, I feel that men have side-to-side relationships. And so if they see another man who understands and sees them, then they're more adept to taking in the information. Do you feel that your male clientele feel a lot more comfortable with you because you are a man? Do you have that conversation, or do you instinctively know that? I like to think that I have that perspective of being a man, and so there's things that, when it comes to, let's say, shaving, I think they appreciate the fact that I know how that experience is like when someone is shaving. Also, the ingrowns and things like that, the sensitivity on your skin when you're shaving and things like that, all that stuff that you experience. But at the end of the day, honestly, I feel like anyone can do men's skin. They just have to, be knowledgeable with skin. Anyone can do it. I'll jump in on that. I think that anyone can do men's skin. I think, to your point, as long as they understand the functions of the skin, how their skin is different than women's, which we understand. The collagen density is thicker, 20% thicker than women. We produce more oils. But also, let's take into consideration, too, the ethnicity of the skin, too. I think that plays a huge part of it. But
more importantly, what I get when I go to these trade shows and I'm talking is how to approach men and how to sustain men. A lot of other women in our environment, some of them are very comfortable with men. Some of them have not really had experiences with men outside of their own personal relationships, and to bring them into a personal space.
Right. I think it's also, how do I wash a man's beard? Or, like what
razor bumps.
Right. And I know that I've had clients also that have had women estheticians where they would tell me my touch is a little different than a woman's because a woman's is a little bit more gentle.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of men that are ticklish. So I'm very firm, so when I do my neck massage, they don't feel as ticklish. Whereas women are
firm.
Very more, they're not as firm, so they're a little bit more,
I think it's also it's understanding the touch, but it's also being empathetic to people. And I think women, both men and women in this industry, if you're in tune with that, then you'll know how to really provide touch for a particular person.
Right.
For me, I'm very comfortable with men of all kinds. I'm East Coaster. So I've had exposure to so many different types of men that when they come into the room, I already know who I'm talking to.
Yeah.
And so when they're on the bed and it's time for that massage, it's time for that facial, my touch is intentional and the pressure is modified because I've already sort of connected with them. And I think what most of our professional females who don't know, they're trying to find out how to make that connection.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that over time, with comfortability and familiarity, it can happen. But for you, what I want to ask is, outside of the treatment room, are you still facing any challenges in this industry as a man? And if so, what are they? And what are some of the triumphs, too, that you've had as a man in this industry?
Oh, okay.
I'm asking some big ones. Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah. This is a conversation today, folks. I'm coming back here. I'm trying to get him to help me do this together, right? But we'll get him there. You know what I mean?
I think challenges is more of an inner thing for me. I still feel there's still some things that I need to prove, and I get very intimidated when I'm in a room full of estheticians who are women. It's just I feel like it's definitely more of an insecurity probably when I'm in a room with female estheticians, that I feel like they'll probably see me as someone who doesn't really know as much as them.
Well, he's very knowledgeable, by the way. I understand that. I still feel that I walk in the room. There's more. First of all, I only see very few Black men, and I know I have a very strong personality, so I know that's off-putting. But I don't sound like a walking textbook, like I told you. But I know what I'm talking about. But if we're up against when I'm trying to make alliances, not just alliances, but let's be more clear about financial associations. We want to be able to pair with people, companies, to see our value so that we can be able to work with them and initially make more money because we're sole proprietors and we want to grow. In these environments, yes, the intimidation is there. I feel the insecurity there. I also see the walls up there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of gatekeepers there.
Yeah.
Women are gatekeepers too in this industry. I have to be honest. And I'll talk about that in another video because it's not all bad. Not everyone, but there are a lot of women who are gatekeepers and a lot of men in this industry who are gatekeepers too. How do you push through that?
I think what pushes me through it is just really trying to just block all of that noise and really just focusing on the why I do it and why I love doing this. And when I get into a space where I'm just with a client and I have that connection with them, I'm able to help them with their skin problems. I think that that's really what gets me through the day. And also just, when it comes to just providing information and content to the community, that's really what I love to do as well. I have I come from a very creative, my brain just has this creative side that always wants to come out, and I'm lucky enough that working in this industry, I get to actually use that as well.
That's the beautiful part of having our own business doing this. And now that we're all online, we get to do things like this, and we get to be these little chemists in our own little world.
Exactly.
And we get to help people with some of their skin issues and skin conditions and well-being and mental state through just putting hands on them and just helping them just feel good and hopefully bringing them down other avenues of wellness.
Yeah.
You are very creative. When I came in here, I met you at the Mecca, and once he came to see me, and we had lunch, and I was like, oh, I like Jeff. And then coming in here, I was like, this is a very special place. Like, I'm getting a little emotional. Like, it's a very special place. He's a very special person. And I was like, I'm going to get you to talk more. I want you to talk more because people need to see you. But you said something. I think you staying in your space of coming from a place of passion and love and not forcing is going to be monumental. You're working with Simmons. We're both working with Simmons. You're going to be at the next trade show. I think the start of you kind of getting out into the world, being as you are, is going to happen. I see that. That's why I'm like drawn to you, because it's one of the things that I want to do for myself. And I found myself trying to like force people to see my value, softening myself so the women can digest me, softening myself so the gay white men can digest me too, and not placating, you know. But then I said, you know what? I'm good at what I do. I love what I do. And I think more men are needed in the industry. We add a certain value because I believe that what we do in our particular rooms are part of the new clinics of the day. With everything, I'm not going to get political, but everything that's going on in the world, especially around the healthcare and wellness piece, we provide a certain service that can help support that at the beginning stages.
Right.
I work with people with oncology, and so I get to see what our benefits can look like in that world. And so just having men come in who are now looking at their self-care very differently and being able to just, if I can just get them to start a regimen, which is a self-connecting activity, it can open up other doors.
Yes.
So just your very presence as a man in this industry is just opening up other doors. I'm going to stop here because we're going to have another conversation at another time. But I want to ask you if there's something you want to be able to bestow on this industry from here, what would that be?
If there's anything that I could just like leave, I think it's just more of just hopefully that I can just give some sort of, inspiration and to let people know that, like, we're all in different journeys. This is one industry, but we all have different backgrounds, and just to understand that, like, it's there's just so many layers in it. I just want to be able to motivate people and make people feel that, like they're not alone, because being a solo esthetician, first of all, it's so hard to, it gets really lonely sometimes.
Especially when you're building.
Yeah.
You work, you go home, you work, you go home, and everything's done online. It could be isolating. No, I think you're doing that. I think you definitely made an impression on me. So the more we get you in front of people, you'll keep making more impressions, and I am determined to get him in front of more people. So, I really want to say thank you for just giving me some time today, and thank you for taking care of my skin today and giving me some self-care. I will be coming back. We will be having a different conversation. And I want to say thank you all. This is my very first, I don't know if it's an episode. I don't know what this is, but I wanted to do this. We'll figure it out. Yeah. Thank you, Lashelle Ullie.
We're in the same shirt.
Yeah, we're in the same shirt, right? We should, right. Okay. We'll see you soon. Thank you very much. Have a good one. Bye.